willingly allowing him and his family to cross her boundaries in order to salvage her marriage with Chris. She would face the pits of Cindy's hell to keep him happy. And unlike Chris, Shanann was not a manipulator, and very forthcoming, which when you consider Chris's upbringing with Cindy and Ronnie, Shanann's personality would have been a huge adjustment for Chris, as he wasn't used to that. The Watts family is sort of reminiscent of a family where the elephant in the room is not talked about, and they instead walk around it and pretend it's not there. The past is never dealt with, and playing pretend is a full-time hobby. Chris really hadn't thought it all through when he courted Shanann about how her personality would resonate with his family, nor how the two families would get along. And over time, this became a huge point of tension. But in the depths of Shanann's emotional despair, with her being pregnant, nauseous, and exhausted, she planned a trip for them. A trip they really couldn't afford. Purchased books to help their marriage. Was in the middle of a pregnancy that placed her health at risk while visiting in-laws who profoundly disliked her without the support of her husband with her. These people who intentionally tried to hurt her and her children, who gaslighted her and manipulated the people that they could around her, while also working a full-time gig from her phone. An MLM company which is extremely hard to become successful at, and only 0.01% of people actually get to the level she made it to. Who had grocery shopped and meal prepped for her husband before she left. Who kept her home organized and clean while raising two beautiful children. And she did it all for him and her family. And yet we are supposed to believe that Chris was abused? No. This man is not the innocent man he presents himself to be. Quite the contrary. The fact a large group of people, and not just a few, but thousands, were manipulated into believing that Chris Watts and his family were the real victims just proved how sophisticated their forms of covert gaslighting and emotional abuse truly was. When you really examine the unspoken, but certainly present details of this case, it actually unearths a family who stores bodies upon bodies, the proverbial skeletons in the closet. A family who, from the onset of Chris and Shanann's relationship, tried to gaslight Shanann by attempting to pit the two against each other before they even said, "I do," and that people would try to have us convince Cindy's behavior was completely normal and excusable. But Shanann, oh no. Shanann must be a liar, because nobody has that many health problems, or that Chris's friends sided with him while detectives were searching for his family, making comments like Shanann was controlling and that they couldn't believe she had all these health problems. And it wasn't just one friend of Chris, but multiple of them. It leads one to this question. Why did his friends have these feelings toward Shanann, and yet her friends and family had nothing but positive things to say about Chris? So let's dive into this. Why or what would cause Chris's friends to have those types of opinions of Shanann, and more so? Why do they feel comfortable enough to state those opinions of her so freely? It's not that people can't or shouldn't question the things people tell them, but we should put a pin in those places when we see a group of people feeling a certain way about somebody, and yet the other group of people don't share in those similar feelings towards the other individual who has flashing red lights all around him, involved in the possible murder of his own wife and children.
So you've been told how it happened in the house and then at the site. What else did you learn from the tape?
I think the hardest part knowing our granddaughter watched her sister die and then begged for her life. Yeah, I don't know how much worse than you can hear.
So you say it could be even worse. What could be worse?
Jamming their bodies in the 8-inch hole, I couldn't. I mean, Dr. Phil, what could be worse?